man, I got to take a breath. Why? Because this guy did something that a lot of us have always wanted to do. Have you ever walked into the dealership and said, golly, nothing here that I really want? You know what? I think maybe I'll just go home and I'll wait for whatever stuff they're sending me in the mail, right? They sent you a lot of stuff in the mail, right?
3 or 4 years, or maybe 5 years, they were sending me all kinds of brochure to buy a Corvette, buy a beautiful processed color advertisement. They were really trying to get me to buy a Corvette.
And they really, you know what, they started to define it and refine it, and then they finally sent you a story, and they said, hey, what if your phone went off right in the middle of a photo shoot? and let's just hit an end on that. And you know what? It's okay. We're still rolling because this happens in life. All right, so now I'm going to put it back away. So now a manila envelope shows up, and it's got a bunch of stuff on it. I just love this story. Jim, tell me a little bit about the story.
Well, it was in manila envelope like you'd get in a big corporation with the names of the various parties where it goes to a party, and when we're done, whether they scratch it out, they put the new name on and it goes to them. So it came to me. It was mailed in. I figured it was a gimmick to get me to buy a Corvette. And it was asking about the status of the hardtop, because if you look here, there's a yellow Corvette here somewheres with a black thing on the front of it there, a bra on the front. Well, they were going to build that kind of car, and they were getting my opinion. Well, I figured it was a gimmick, and there was no way to send it back, so obviously it was a gimmick. Well, I put it away in my file for a week or two, and I said, you know, I'm going to send back some comments. So I got it out, and I dug around on the internet to get an address for Dave Hill. And
who was Dave Hill?
He was the project manager for Corvette.
So he's pretty high up there in the food chain.
Yeah, he was the top man. Yeah, yeah. He came from Cadillac, so he had a lot of knowledge of this stuff, and that's why Corvettes and Cadillac share a lot of stuff, because of Dave Hill. That's made it more clinched it, so to speak. Well, anyway, I sent back my comments, and I ended it up with, it's not a case of buying a Corvette. Someday I will, but it will have to have 400 horsepower.
400 horsepower. We love numbers here on Headlights and Tailpipes, I gotta tell you. But this is great. He sent out a letter to Corvette and said, hey, you know what? I just want something simple. I don't know. I'd like a larger glove box, maybe some bigger headlights, or nah.
All I wanted was 400 horsepower.
400 horsepower. I dig it.
And that was in '99. And then when they came out with the C6 Z06 behind me, it had 500 horsepower, so I bought it.
You guys think I got a lot of energy? This guy waited 7 years for his 400 horses. Now he's got 500. But this is where it gets even better. A lot of people like to modify stuff. Oh, do you hear something in the background? Oh man, look at that little that little yellow thing. You might want to pan over there. Look at that little yellow thing. That distracted our... We had a phone call, we had something else going on. All right, so then what happened here is you get 500 horses, you waited 7 years, but you never do something. What is it that you'd never, ever, ever have done?
Well, I ran the Silver State in this at 150 mile an hour average for 90 miles 10 times in this car, which is what I've always wanted to do. And up to that point in time, I'd only run 8 times in one car. So to run 10 times in a car that I bought and didn't build myself was, to me, a terrific adventure. That's the way it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to have to do it yourself. You should be able to buy it from a dealership and do what you want to do, and that's what I did.
I'm curious, though. What exactly have you done to this car?
Nothing. I refused to do anything to this car because I figured that eventually Corvette would build a car that would satisfy me, that I wouldn't have to work on, and this is the one.
Did you guys just hear that? All he's done to this car is pick a bunch of cool stickers and stick them on it. He puts the key in the ignition.
No, there's no key, it's just a button, but anyway. But all the cars that I bring here, which you people are familiar with, I work on and I build from scratch almost. And I get 400 or 500, one of them has 800 horsepower, and I build them. But this one I do not touch. It's going to stay the way it is because General Motors or Corvette did a good job. And I waited 3/4 of my life to do that, and I did it. So
it doesn't get that simpler. All right, you got from the headlights to the tailpipes, lots of great stories, but every once in a while, somebody just says, hey, write the story and I'll buy it.
All right, well, here's a little more to this story. Just a minute ago, you were digging around with your phone, and you said in an interview, your phone, and it gets in the way sometimes. Okay, now I'm going to tell you a story. When I ordered this car, they said, I ordered it from a fellow who had come here, and I'd backed him up with some tools, and he said, if you ever want to buy a car from my dealership in Ohio, call me, and you can get it for my cost. So when these came out a year or so later, I called him, and I said, I want one. He said, you can't get it until next winter, but if you're willing to wait next winter, you can get it. And I said, okay. So it was in April of '06, and I'm on the roof of the Golden Nugget Hotel here in town with a civil engineer, and we're looking all around the property to see where the water comes in and the electric comes in and so on, because we're going to build a new tower. While I'm talking to him, my phone goes off. It's the dealership. It says, we have a car here exactly like you want, except it's got painted wheels. Will you take painted wheels instead of shiny wheels? I said, yes, I will. He says, be here next week with a cashier's check for $65,559.50. And then my beeper goes off. And it says no water pressure. That's because one of the bulldozers on the new tower we were going to get building had just dug into the water main, and water is shooting 30 feet in the air. So sometimes, like the phone interrupted you for a second, life's things that are so special, they also have little interruptions in there too. Now that's a little something to throw in there for your story today.
I love that.
A little twist.
Sometimes you get thrown a curve. Sometimes a story just happens, and right here, it just dropped in there, and I love it. I love all these great stories. Y'all got to visit with Jim. You ever see him in a car show? This is Headlights to Tailpipes. I'm Josh. Thanks for tuning in. Good stuff, bro.